Hello. 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 Uh-oh. Oh, that's just dumb stuff. All right. All right. Oh, really? I thought I changed. Oh, Commander. Commander. We changed the paths to some things, and so. All right. There we go. All right. I haven't looked at the dynamic land stuff aside from the front page. How am I going to make money off the compiler? I probably am not going to make money off the compiler. Certainly not in any direct way. I may make money off it by being more efficient in programming my future projects. That's the theory anyway. Go back to nope, not that one. Have some snacks and some iced tea. When's the next lecture? I have no idea. No specific plans at this time. Am I going to go show the T method? Not right now. I don't have everything for it yet. Things are going well. I'm flying back to San Francisco tomorrow for a bit, which maybe is not the best, but because I've been traveling a lot, so flying again and then flying again a week later for Christmas break is a little annoying, but aside from that, everything is good. I've not seen The Last Jedi. I've been ignoring what's going on Twitter because Twitter became unusable when I got outrage mobbed. So, and frankly, it's not that fun to use even on calm days. So I may just have to go write only on Twitter, like use it as a way to announce what I'm doing or something, and just not ever read anything that comes in on it, which is a little bit of a bummer because I like having avenues of communication with people with whom I have mutual interest. But I don't know, man. It's been like over the past several years, Twitter's just gotten worse and worse. And it hasn't been for technological reasons. It's been for the reasons of the kind of people who use Twitter and what they use it for. So I just may have to take a vacation from that platform. What's the best way to reach me? I don't know. Well, you're here right now. I do think there are some things about the design of Twitter that lead to this weird, like, passive-aggressive mob attack behavior. For example, subtweeting should just not be a thing, right? Because it's essentially a way to talk about somebody behind their back, which has been a nasty part of human behavior for a long time. And, like, why would you facilitate that? And not only a way to talk about people behind their back, but a way to do it and drag lots of people, give lots of people a way to harass that person by giving them an easy link to the account. It's just, you know, if Twitter were up to me, that would not be in there. But if Twitter were up to me, like, a lot of things would be different about it. So maybe that's not really worth mentioning. Yeah, I don't stream that often because I've been traveling and stuff. And it's just, you know, if I'm in a hotel with bad internet, it's hard to stream. So, and sometimes I just don't want to stream. Sometimes I just want to chill and program on my own. Yeah, the favorite button would definitely be the thing. It would not be a like button. It would not be a heart. That was terrible. All right. I'm going to warm up some water because I probably will want some hot tea, but I'm not going to make it yet, and then we will start. We'll start. Hopefully that won't be too loud going off in the background. How would I recommend? Beginning to get into rendering programming. I don't know. I honestly don't know because OpenGL is a giant pain in the butt. The way I learned rendering was by doing software rendering where you write every pixel yourself. And that is a lot more sane because your program is in control of everything and therefore it's easy to debug what's going on as opposed to having to guess what some weird underlying layer is doing. But that's also, that also involves going down to a level of detail about rendering that you may not want to. I don't know, but that's the way I learned it. I can't really say that there's a good way to learn it now. I think Direct3D is easier than OpenGL, yes, but I have not tried Direct3D 12, and even D3D 11 starts getting pretty complicated. But certainly back in the DirectX 9 days, D3D was way easier to use than OpenGL and way more programmer friendly. So, yeah. All right, let's talk about stuff. What I've been doing lately in the middle of traveling and off stream and stuff is working on a library called Program Print. And what it does is it prints out your program, starting with the syntax tree that you get at compile time, right? So remember, as you compile your program, you have the ability to sort of snoop on messages that the compiler gives you, and that'll have a tree form version of your program along with type annotations that you could use to modify your program or to, check it to make sure it's follows your house coding style, or gather statistics about it, or create a visualization. You can do all sorts of things with that. Now, one of the things, in order to prove that this round tripping works, one of the things we want to be able to do is dump the program all the way back into text, right? And the reason why you want to be able to do that is because then you could output it to a different programming language relatively easily. And instead of us having that in the compiler, so remember we used to have a C output backend in the compiler, it's still there. I don't totally, it's not really maintained because I think it's better to have that as a user level library that people can read and copy and modify and do their own version of, right? So this is the first step toward that, where we output stuff in this language just back to this own language. And we'll know that all this is successful once we can compile a big program like Sokoban, and then in the messages the compiler gives us while we're compiling it, write back out a separate copy of the program back into text, and then compile that and run it, and it works and you can play Sokoban. When that works, then we'll know that this facility is good. So, instead of just outputting to C, you might use this to transpile your program into Lisp or any other favorite programming language. Or, if we do major modifications to the syntax or the semantics of this language in the future, then this type of thing can be used to upgrade your program from one version of the language to the next version, right? So that is... Is there any question about that before we go on and look at what's happening for a little bit? Anyway. So what this looks like, do I plan on releasing a version that moves older versions to newer ones and new compiler releases? Yes. I mean, hopefully that's not totally necessary. Hopefully the compiler itself could just, for minor changes, you just want the compiler to recognize both versions of the program or whatever. But yes, at some point, you want to be able to make, there's a lot to be said for backward compatibility, and for your program, you wrote it once and it works forever on future versions of the language like C++ does. But there's a lot not to be said for it. Like, that's also the reason C++ is a giant mess, because they can't ever fix any problems. Like, any problem that's introduced to the language or the libraries of C++ has to work that way forever. And it's really caused a large number of problems, right? Whereas I think it's better if you accumulate sort of things that are not ideal, but you just sort of work with it, but you remain backward compatible for a while. And then once in a while you say, okay, we're breaking it off. New programs should be in the new version of the language, but we're also going to give you a way to upgrade your program, right? So that's the plan. And that way we should be able to maintain a clean language indefinitely into the future while enabling everybody's code to still work. So we'll see. We'll see whether there are any kind of flaw in that plan, but that's the plan. So this version that I'm doing right now does not yet do white space and comments and all those things. That would be planned for the future. Like I would like it if the output is eventually byte for byte identical. But you know, it's one step at a time, and before we get there, lower hanging fruit is just to output the equivalent program, not worried about comments and spaces and stuff. Yeah. Someone says that super did not work with Python 3. Well, I'm not familiar with what they did and what the problem might have been, and whether it's, you know, something that's due to implementation details of what the way they decided to do it, or whether there's a flaw in the fundamental problem. The reason I like the fundamental idea is that, talking again about Directx versus OpenGL, Directx did this kind of thing where I'm talking about, and OpenGL did the kind of thing, well, except Directx didn't provide you a way to automatically upgrade. Whereas OpenGL just accrued problems forever. And then eventually OpenGL finally, after decades, decided to break it off and declare old things incompatible. So you like have to do that eventually. But yeah, that's why I like that model, is because I always felt like DirectX was cleaner and more programmer friendly. Does this mean all the bugs from the previous streams have been solved? Almost all of them. There is one more. But for example, if I go back and if I run the tests, they all work now. Hopefully, yeah. So I fixed that annoying test, and actually a couple more tests have been added. There's one more bug from that list that I need to do, but I don't want to do it tonight. Yeah, I'm actually going to make a note in my to-do list. Whoops, it's in doc now. I'm not used to the new file locations. Look into what happened with Python 3. So you mean upgrading from Python 2 to Python 3, or what? All right. So, am I worried C++ would steal my ideas? If C++ steals my ideas and actually manages to implement them in a good way, then that's a net improvement in the world. So no, I'm not that worried about it. But also, they're very slow, especially given how many people are working on the language, because it's so complicated and so committee driven, and they have such a mess to deal with, that I just don't think they can operate that quickly. You know, but if anything that they see here that they like, they're welcome to work with. Python 3 made a lot of the built-ins that were part of the syntax into functions. I don't know if I would do that. That would not be my preferred approach. Although they do that with new, right? We don't have an operator new anymore. But well, I don't know. I'll have to look into what the problems are that happened in Python because of that. There were a lot of API changes, so there wasn't always a direct conversion from 2 to 3. Yeah. Some Linux distros use different naming conventions for the Python executables, which prevents some scripts. That is not an issue here because we compile directly to an executable, so we don't have that particular problem. Can you have an array whose struct members are const? Or is this just like standard vector madness? I don't know. You have to be more specific about that question. An array whose struct members are const. What you mean, an array of structs where the structs have members that are const? Yeah, of course we do that. Or are you asking something else? I'm just not sure. Rant on the importance of global variables. I mean, global variables are important. You need them. Okay. So I was working on this, and you know, over the course of like a few hours a day for some days, I've got about 600 lines of stuff, and it translates most of the syntax tree. I have a bunch of notes up here about things that are incomplete, so I'm going to work on that. But anyway, you'll notice now, if I hit F7 to compile Sokoban, it's sitting here before it returns for like a couple of seconds. And that's because it's running this and rewriting the program. And you know, it's doing it all in bytecode, so it's slower than if it did it as a native executable. And that's what's taking that time there. So, what else do I need to say before I start working on this? Struct foo, constant member, standard vector foo is impossible. What? Really? That's crazy, yo. No, we can totally do that. Why is it standard vector of something with a const member impossible? That sounds really stupid. What is the problem that arises when you do that? In the example of your language, if you expose an interface to transform an AST, you lock in libraries that transform the AST to that specific AST. So either you don't upgrade your AST, you don't have backwards compatible AST transformations. Okay. There's definitely other things to say about that, such as that we're not going to have the same policy about libraries that most languages do. And I think it may solve that problem or alleviate that problem. And we'll talk about that. I'm going to have a special stream sometime soon. I don't know if it'll be before Christmas or not, but I'll have a special stream where I lay out what the current idea is about how library handling may go. That seems good to me, and we'll just talk about it. You know, that'll be the next non-programming language stream. Const member implicitly deletes copy constructor. Why would that happen? It's really dumb. A const member implicitly deletes a copy constructor. What? Why did they do that? Yeah, the whole like thing where people are freaked out about global variables is just an overreaction, right? If you write a program and it's super unstructured and you put all sorts of things that should be encapsulated locally into global variables, then yes, that's going to be an overcomplicated program that's probably buggy and probably hard to debug. But there are things that want to be global state accessible by everybody. And if you insist on not making those global variables, then you're just making your program harder to understand harder to maintain, probably harder to debug, and often that will have performance implications as well. So the real answer is just know what should be a global variable and what shouldn't. That's all. That's most things in programming, right? Like most of these programming methodologies and trends are just people noticing something legitimate that's really is a problem in some contexts or even in most contexts, and then overreacting to that problem in the opposite direction, and is not a good way to do it. Any news on the SOA rewrite? No, I just haven't got to that yet. We've been just doing general debugging and stuff. Yeah, dependency injection is really weird too. I don't, like, that's a whole idea that's like, it's the hacky scripting language version of just like passing around an object that has a well-defined interface. So like, I don't even understand why people think dependency injection is a thing that should have its own name, but whatever. The dogma says no global variable. I'm going to get Twitter mobbed for saying global variables are okay. It's true, you just can't say something against the dogma. It's not allowed. It's not allowed. All right. Okay. So just to illustrate, so remember when I compiled this, it spent a second writing out some stuff. And if I go show you what it wrote out, I believe it writes it into the current directory of wherever I was when I compiled. Whoops. So if I look for this, no. Wait. Let me just print out, okay. So basically what happens is, oh, I just write it. Oh, it's not called .program print, it's just called program print. I was looking for a dot file. There we go. Okay, so this is the output of that thing. You'll notice it has some weird spacing. The indentation isn't what I usually do, but it's outputting something that looks like a reasonable program. This is only one of the files. But again, this is a translation from the syntax tree back into program text. And I want to work on getting the indentation better in a little bit. But there are some things that are not done yet. And some of them are minor problems, and some of them are major problems. So I'll have these things that say incomplete that are being output, like, okay, I was going to write what the expression is for delta, and it's not done, and what the expression is for inside, and it's not done. Actually, those are the only, really, those are the only incompletes in this file. Yeah, okay. So, let me show you what the source is for this particular thing, right? This is just one of the files. It's world panel. So if I go to Sokoban, editor, world panel. So this is the original source, right? You'll notice it has comments and the spacing is different, but if you look, you know, the lines of code are the same. Now this draw selector thing is wrong because there's empty string on the left-hand side of this colon equals. That's not going to parse. And then these things say incomplete, extract. And what's going on there is that what this really was is a two variables on the left assignment, right? It was like a comma-separated list assigned to the result of a function. And the problem is, when I do that, the parser destructively modifies the syntax tree and makes these things called extracts, the job of which is to go look at this function call and grab the return values out. And that's not an unusual trick. That is something that compiler implementers would often do. The problem is that I need to decide now whether that's acceptable, because this is now visible to user code that browses the syntax tree, right? So basically, I could actually print more data here instead of incomplete, but what this says is extract return value 0 from this procedure call, and what this says is extract return value 1 from this procedure call, right? But the problem is that that idea has no straightforward representation in the program's original syntax, unless you just make up dummy variables and assign these to the dummy variables, in which case that's the same thing as just rewriting all of this to go back to what it was. So the question that I have to decide right now is it okay to have these weird things in the syntax tree reported to users who may be writing user code to browse the syntax tree? Or do I need to get rid of them and just give them this thing with the variables on the left-hand side only, even if I use this internally? Now, if I do that second thing, there's still an additional challenge, because when I give them the syntax tree, it's also supposed to have type information. And for this version of the assignment, the compiler doesn't fill out the type information. It does it on the extract version. So I just need to think about that. I'm going to look at how it happens, and I'm going to think about that. Now, meanwhile, there's some other mistakes that if I get annoyed with this, I can look at. So for example, here we've got an expression where we've got height colon equals title height plus, oh wait, something didn't draw, times category height plus ypad, right? And what is in that plus is just some variable called num categories. So that's pretty weird that that didn't draw. Like why? Oh, it's a constant. So maybe things that are constant substituted are not printing correctly. Anyway, so except this, wait, selector height. This is a whole binary operation. Maybe it has nothing to do with that, because this should be like an A times B kind of expression here of 1.8 times editor body font dot character height. And none of that is coming out. So there's something broken in operator expressions as well. And you know, we can punt and look at that also. In fact, you know what? Maybe I'll look at that first. What's the resolution of my monitor? I believe it's 4K, quote, 4K, unquote. Are there plans to be able to call C or C++ code? It already calls C code, and we'll do some kind of C++ support later, but you can't really support the whole language. It's intractable. Sorry if the text is a little bit small. I don't know how this is coming out on the stream. Hopefully it's okay. So I'm wondering what is the best way to debug this. I could check, let me first of all see Like, I wonder in what case for print expression could we possibly not print anything, right? So if it's a block, we call print block. That's not going to be the case here. If it's a literal, if it's an ident. If it's another operator expression, which these are, actually not all of them. Huh. We do some stuff like if it's an array subscript, we draw that differently. That is returned to you as a binary operator, but we draw that differently. Let me look a little bit more at the code. So let me just see if there's anything common that I can notice about the problem. I usually like doing that before I go straightforwardly grinding. So what's the first legit problem that I see? Okay, they're in this if statement, right? Both of these if statements, okay, that's a clue. So get universe name. So this one is just printing this without the name of the variable, and this variable isn't constant, it's a parameter. So that tells us it's probably not about that. And this says if manager.universe name. It's so weird. Because we successfully print manager.universe name here, but not here. So why don't I do that? So that gives me a very concrete place to look. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to look for where we handle if. And we say if space, right? And then I want to sort of, before this, notice how many bytes are in the string builder. And then after this, check that again. And I don't know if there's an abstracted way to do that or if I just do it. I'm just going to do this, old, because I don't think we have any, I don't think we happen to generate any expressions that'll fill out exactly one buffer size, so I'm just going to do this. Old is builder current buffer dot occupied. New is that if old is equal to new, hey, we outputted an empty string on expression. Now this may not trip. So another option is that maybe there's just a bug in string builder, right? Like we may be adding a string, but it's then getting overwritten by another string later for some reason, like if it lands, if it crosses a block boundary. Dude, I don't know. I honestly don't know. We're just going to look. Let's just see what happens there. Whoa! So the question is, does this actually work? Okay, the other problem is I'm running this on every file, but I'm stomping over all the files. So this one is just the last file. So none of these are pertaining to the file we were looking at, is the thing. Okay, wait, but these are all cast expressions. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. I made a goofball. So cast expressions, it's this line right here. So one thing that the compiler does is it inserts implicit casts into the syntax tree, because you need to know those when you're browsing the syntax tree, because you need to know that a type conversion takes place and that sort of thing in order to check the program for correctness. And when I was writing this code, I said, hey, if there's an implicit cast, just don't print it, just return. But that is not right, because you want to write the expression on the right-hand side of the cast, not the empty string. So you want to do this. Look, that message didn't print at all, so let's delete it now. Hey, we... All right. So if we go back there now, hey, look, now you get universe name is correctly does this variable. So the reason it happened all the time in if is that if inserts an implicit cast to bool, and, well, there you go. So that's good. Well, so we still have these extracts. But here's what I'm going to do, actually. This is weird. For this one, I actually successfully printed out the comma separate. Wait, I got to go look at that in the source code. What? Is this from a different file? Object to world to okay, I don't know where this came from. Adjust coordinates due to base entity. Whoa. Okay, here we have a bug. Okay, I bet world panel ends with this draw textured quad flipped, right? Which is this. This stuff is remainder from a different file because we didn't reset the buffer before writing it out or something like that. Because we're using the same buffer for every file. So let's fix that. So we say builder to string, and then, we call finish for every output file. Oh, when the string builder resets, this is a string builder bug, right? So when we reset a string builder, we're supposed to free all the buffers. Now that might be a bug, like the free buffers might not be getting called. But I suspect it is because our cursor is getting reset to the beginning. So I suspect that free buffers is just not doing the right thing. Like that is what we want to do. Right? Hey, look. Let me make sure we have a fresh. Update physical position. Was that the right one? Let me see. No, it's draw textured, quad flipped. Oh, we have the same problem still. Okay. Oh, dummy. Okay, wait, free buffers is fine, and then we do all this here. So actually that was redundant, what I just did. Because reset is the... None of this should matter because we get a fresh string builder anyway. So, this is an annoying bug because it has nothing to do with what I was working on necessarily. It could be just the string builder is buggy. But it's good because this is the kind of thing we want to do. We want to hit this bug before users of the language and libraries hit this kind of bug. This is a dumb bug, probably. What about this current consumer buffer? I mean, that should definitely... I don't really know. This is a weird one. Get here's what I'm going to do. When we have a fresh string builder, this should be empty, right? So I'm going to say to see what happens there. Hey, look, they're all empty. So that means we're not getting garbage memory from an old instantiation of this, which is good because that would be a compiler bug. So it's something about when we add buffers, probably. So when we call builder to string, we start at the base buffer, we iterate over this linked list. I don't see anything obviously wrong. we shouldn't have to assert that, but we are. All right. Let's get rid of this, because that didn't help. When allocating new buffers, do they get cleared, or is it reusing freed memory? Well, we just knew something on the heap right now, right here. And it should be initialized to default. And we asserted that a next pointer is null, which is, you can imagine if the next pointer was pointing to some garbage buffer, then that would be a problem. So I don't really know. I don't even have a theory right now as to how we get a partial string. It's really weird. It's something super simple because this buffer is not very complicated. But there you have it. Another possibility, here's what I'm going to do, is I'm not going to, so it could be the buffer messing up, or it could just be the heap memory that we're using for this. We're re-getting an old block of memory, and then the length of this string is maybe not correct, right? So let's check that by, let's like decline to free this thing, and we'll see. That way we can't ever get the same old block of it. No, it's the same result still. It's the same. Well, maybe not. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. It's not exactly the same result, is it? No. Okay. Wait, that's legit. Okay, never mind. That's just weird indentation. So what was the last function again? Draw textured quad flipped. I got to remember that. Quad flipped. Okay, that's the last one. Right. And yeah, it does break at the same place because I remember all that. When calling write entire file and the file is stomped, is the length being correctly changed? That is a good point. You know what? I bet you it is not correctly changed. Let's test that. So the thing I was going to do anyway is start writing out a bunch of extra files, and I decided not to do that because, why would I do that? Why would I do that without debugging this? But let's just try that, because that would be a good thing to debug anyway. So let's say t or name is tprint. We'll call pp, and then whatever the original file name was, dot text. Wait, does the file name, I think it has dots in it already. No, it doesn't. Oh, it may. It may. Okay. Okay, so I believe we have find character from left. Chopped, find character from left, file.name. Let's just call it, yeah. Make sure that is what we expect. Okay, well, if chopped equals file. Okay, so now we have the thing without the extension. I should just make a routine called strip extension, but I'm lazy. All right, so we're going to use that now, and we're going to say name is this with chopped. So now, assertion failed, line 572. Really? Oh, because it has a slash in it. Did file base name routine. I don't remember if base name is the right name for this. I don't remember what that does in Unix, but whatever, it's what we're going to call it. Oh, wow. Oh, wait. Okay, so we just do that. And we'll just do the same thing for this backslash. Oops. We've got to return this. Okay, so now world panel was the last file. So if I go there to pp world panel, hey, that is the last thing. So thank you. The problem was the file stomping. So this is going to be something probably about Windows file things. You could just find slash from the right once instead of from the left repeatedly. That is a good point. My intelligence goes way down when I stream. All right. All right. So let's, all right, I'm gonna put this into like basic. Okay. Let me save that. Make sure it still compiles now that I checked it in. Okay. Now, we got to go back to stomping the file because we've got to create the bug. We've got to create the bug to verify that the bug is fixed, or we have to cause the bug, right? So if we go to program print, and I want to verify this is getting onto disk, so let's save it out again. All right, there we go. It is getting changed. And it does still have the wrong stuff at the end. Right, the wrong stuff is this run markers, friendly dragon, etc. So what really this is the longest file, right? Okay. Yeah, well, a string is sort of, we don't care what you call a string. A string is just a length on a data pointer. But for the purposes of the file libraries and all that, yeah, we presume UTF-8 at all times. Okay. So, well, maybe that shouldn't be in basic. Maybe it should be in file. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You might use that for asset names or something. Whatevs. Okay. And that's going to just load file windows. And, well, let's just look at it's called write entire file. We say file open, file write. Oh, keep existing content. False. That probably does it right there. All right. Hey, look. Draw textured quad flipped is last. Thanks for suggesting that. I might not have thought about the file angle for a long time. Okay, now that that is fixed, we can go back and remake it so we're writing all these files. And I'm going to write the old name and the new name. File.name, comma name. All right, so this will just tell anyone who uses this for now. Eventually, we don't want to spam a bunch of files into your current folder because that's really not good. But people just know what's going on for now. So that's great. Any questions about what just happened? Any questions? I think you need to convert character return live feeds back to, yeah. No, I agree. So that is an incomplete at the top of this, I think. Maybe I don't. It's something that I know that I haven't done yet. Let me see. String, incomplete, quote characters in the string. So it's, you know, I'll be going through this whole to-do list and handling all these incompletes over time. Although I suppose I could do that now. Because, you know, I removed a bug on a standard library feature used for writing any file, right? The thing that had the bug was just that there's this routine called write entire file where you're just supposed to be able to slam down a whole file and not think about it. And the problem is if another file existed that was bigger, we kept the old data at the end, which is, you might want to do that in some case, but not this case. That's not what this routine is for. So it's just a very small mistake. Very small mistake. Yeah, we should quote strings. I think that'll be good. So to do that, let's find a case. I bet there's something in maybe world panel. No, there's no \n here. How about trying to think of, I mean, main probably has, whoops. Yeah. So that has, when printing out the, when printing out errors in passing command line arguments, right, in handle command line arguments, we have some strings with new lines in them. And the thing is, those will not print correctly right now. So if I go to pp main, which is our post-process version of this, error missing. So see, that new line has just turned into like a new line, right? So we need to deal with that. Do I have a smaller string type that uses relative pointers? The intended use is that, I mean, yes, you can say, instead of x:string, you can say x:string tilde s16, right? And that's a 16-bit relative pointer. You can say s string s32 and so on. That is implemented, yes. I thought I demoed that way back, but regardless, that is in there. We may still be ironing out some bugs, but it's in there. One of the first things you do is define a put s. You know, I just don't care that much. I'm just used to the C-style new line, you know. And the thing is, you may not just want to be printing these things. You may pass them to the logger or whatever. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. So now, one thing I'm not sure about is what do we do in the lexer for controlled codes? I know that Josh added some. So let me look at that. Okay. So we make a string constant. We start parsing it. We really should use a switch statement here, but whatever. So we do nrft. I guess he was using some of these for color things. Oh, of course, we do have to handle quotation marks, for sure. Okay. And zeros for sure. I mean, we'll do all of these, right? So we say, all right, let's just do it. Rather than talking too much, we just do it. So okay, I'm just going to do the super slow version of this now. Can I iterate over a string? What happens if I do that? I don't think that actually works. Yeah. I wonder if I'm going to want to add that. But for now, it doesn't, it's not supported. So for for 0 s.count minus 1 if C is S. Let's make it an I. I is that if C is less than 32, because that's where all the control characters are. Else if actually, we'll write it the dumb way first, and then we'll convert it to the faster way, because, you know, why not? Okay. Well, some of these are easy. So if it's just something we're going to assume is a regular character, we're going to say, do I have an add character? We don't even have an append character. That's where we're at. How do I want to do this? Okay. Append character builder C, right? That's what we do by default. Character. If it's a backslash, then we append string. This is always funny, right? We're backslashing a backslash and backslashing a backslash, which gives us a string with only 2 backslashes in it. Yeah, this is always the fun part. Okay, if it's a quote, we output that, and if it's less than 32, we'll break this out into C is equal to whatever, and then the default case is going to be this. So case, well, case 0, certainly, append string, builder, that. Because we have to backslash our backslash, we're writing out a backslash 0, right? So if it's 0, if it's 10, I don't know if I want to do all these by this way, but whatever. So we need R, F, T, E. Let's go E, F, N, R, T. It's the alphabetical order. So E is 5, F is 6, right? Or no, maybe it's not. I should look up what these actually mean. I shouldn't assume, no, I shouldn't remotely assume that I know what these are. So let me look this up. C++, string escape codes, character literals. This Wikipedia page is not telling me what the integer codes are for the, oh no, that's not Wikipedia. It's MSDN is not telling me. Okay, here we go. cppreference.com has us covered here. So we need E. It doesn't have backslash E. This is what I'm looking at right now. Here's what it has to say. There ain't no backslash E here. Okay, but F is form feed, which is OXC, which is 12. So that's definitely not what I would have assumed. R is carriage return is 13. T, horizontal tab, is 9. So what's E? Does anyone know what backslash E is supposed to be? Is that a new thing? Is that like newer than what I'm looking at? E is OX1B. But what is it? What does it mean? Is it a color related thing? Because he said he added like color stuff so that we could output color to the console. But I don't know. I don't know if you can search for backslash anything in Google. God, Microsoft is so screwed about strings. They also don't have a \e. What is this, a GCC thing? What is it? What is it? Somebody escape character. Okay, and let's just escape character OX1B. Okay, well, that's fine. That's enough of verification. But I'm doing all these in decimal. I guess I'll convert them. Whatever, sometimes. Right. Right, did I make a mistake there? Oops. Whoops. Hitting the wrong keys all over the place. F-type U8. Oh, I guess strings are unsigned. You learn something new every day. All right, so, and why I'm doing this nonsense, I don't know. Expression is not an L value. Okay, that's why I was doing it. All right, so where did I, that was in main, so pp main. There we go, we got a \n, right? Missing argument after dash language, \n. Dash size takes 2 numeric arguments, example, etc. Okay, that's fine. Let's try and do the faster version. I mean, yeah. Just because we want to have a little bit of self-respect, we could leave that there. So what do I want to do? I want to say, I want to turn this from a for loop into like a while loop or something. I want to say written is 0, right? And cursor is 0, and while cursor is less than s.count. We do that. Okay, now, for all of these, we'll go ahead and do special things. But for this, instead of appending one character at a time, which we're going to get rid of, we will say, well, we won't do anything. And at the bottom of this loop, we will say cursor plus equals 1. When we're all done, we have to flush anything that's not written. So we're going to say flush builder. What is the string? How much we have written, which can get modified. Well, we'll say written. We'll do a little functionally and not with an out parameter. Flush builder s written, and cursor. So what this will do is write from everything up to cursor and return the new written, which will be equal to cursor. And we just need to do this every time Now, you know what? Screw it, we're just going to do the ugly thing. Because this is just what we do. We could put that in a macro later if we care when we have macros, but I don't think I care. I hope I did the right thing. All right, so now flush. Does the following. If cursor is equal to written, return written, nothing changes. Otherwise, t is a new string. t.data is s.data plus written. t.count equals cursor minus written. Append string builder t. That seems right. I don't know if it is right, but let's look. Visit the file. Do we have \n? Okay, we have the \n, but then we also accidentally printed it. Right, so we got to do that. All right, so now that works, and it should be substantially faster. That's enough to have some self-respect, I think. Oh, here's another incomplete, by the way. We could do that one. That'll be easy. That doesn't require me to do a lot of thinking about internals like we would for extract. Let's see what other incompletes. Context or push. It's all, oh, there's more extracts. Directive location. Okay, let's do those too, but first let me check this in. Any questions about what happened there? I'm less grumpy than I need to be, than I used to be. Maybe not than I need to be. I don't know. Emacs probably has multiple line inserts, and I just don't know how to do it. I stick to a very minimal set of things because Emacs already annoys me. I don't want more Emacs in my life. I mean, obviously you can write a multi-line insert if there isn't one, but I'm sure somebody has one. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a very short break of like 5 minutes, get up, reheat some tea, get some circulation, and then we'll come back and we'll do these incompletes. And we'll do some questions when I come back. So if you have a question, get ready to ask it. I'm a little dissatisfied with my current snacks. When do I think this will be released for public use? Well, we don't know exactly, but we're aiming for a one-digit integer number of months. Of course, we will first roll it out to a smaller group of people and then eventually enlarge that group. Any new games to stream? Not that I know of. I did not say in what base it is a one-digit integer a month. Any plans to monetize it? No. I don't use the word monetize. How far down am I on the list of features? There's a couple big ones still, but I decided that we should really do a pass of, debugging and robustifying things before we add new features, because it seemed like time to do that, which is why we've been doing this stuff. So even though not all the features are in, I also decided maybe not all the features need to be in for the first few people to start playing with the language. So we're working toward that. And then I'll sneak in new features as it feels appropriate. It's good being by the fireplace because it's warm. Okay, are there any questions before we continue? I heard Question D is the new Linux startup software. Is the Sokoban game coming with the public release of the code? Something will come with it. It depends on timing and whether that's ready and stuff. So why don't I program by the fireplace? It's a good question. I probably should. I was just thinking that, actually. Why do I invest so much time into language as opposed to what? How much time did I put into design before implementing? None, because if you don't have experience working with this kind of feature, then you don't know what you're designing. So I go in the direction of what seems like it'll be the best design and then change that when I feel like I have enough experience to make a better decision. Do I use a UTF-8 library? I mean, there's a standard there's a standard Unicode reference UTF-8 header file that we use. We don't use anything heavier weight than that. Will the language be good for general use? Yes. What book do I think every developer should read? I don't know. There's no such thing. Mythical Man Month, maybe. Other than that, I don't know if I've read any programming books that are any good, honestly. Have I programmed a game with another developer? I mean, The Witness was made by a team. There were several people working together on that. It wasn't a one-person project. Do I ever go to conventions? Not very often, no. What book do I think every developer should avoid? I mean, there's so many of them, I can't pick one. All right, let's continue. Let's continue. So, I was going to handle this incomplete for context or push. So that is this, and this is just for when we're dealing with the global context that gets passed to all the procedures. So let me go to program print. No, this one. And in this giant switch, we say case, context, or push. C is cast code, context, or push expression. And then we just do something with that. So either, the way this works is one of these pointers will be set and the other one will be null, right? So if it's this, then it's a push context. And if it's this, I don't remember what this means. So, oh, no. I said that wrong. I think either both of these will be null or they'll both be set. Let me double check that by going into bytecode builder or push. Okay. Yeah, so either both will be set if either both pointers will be set or neither will be set. If both are set, this is push context. Otherwise, just okay. If c.toPush, we do something else. Append string builder context. All right, and then otherwise we say push context, and then we say print expression builder expression, and then we say put a space, and then we say builder statement. And there we go. Maybe not, right? Because it's not statement, it's c.statement and c.expression, or c.toPush. All right, so now we go back to pp main, and we shouldn't. So first of all, when we say incomplete, now we just get these extracts in the location. We don't have any incomplete context or anything. And we should be able to find push context. There we go. Push context, new context, do one frame. A new context is context. So that all worked. However, we do have this garbage semicolon here that we don't really want. Like any kind of I'm not going to worry about that for now. Not going to worry about it for now. Any plans for a WebAssembly backend? I think we already have one because LLVM supports that. We just need to hook it up to the front end to say output this. I mean, it might not be that trivial, but you know, we'll see. What was my favorite game this year? I don't know. Maybe Fidel Dungeon Rescue? Maybe Opus Magnum? Probably there's other games that were really good. Gorogoa, which just came out, is good. So it's hard to pick. All right. So that worked. It's all fine. Whoops. So I bought Battlefront 2. I just haven't played it. Okay, let's look at the other one of these. Incomplete. We'll skip the extracts for now. Directive Location. I think that's just... Oh no, that has some parameters. Right. Directive Location. Oh, we don't have that here. All right. So... All right. I forget how it works. I think it's location and then a parentheses in the expression or whatever. Wait, but then there's also caller location that we... I'm going to need to look at this. Let's go all the way to here, which is the actual internal one. So we need this. Okay. Okay. So we need to go into Messenger. We need to do this. We need to export those values. So what we need to see is caller location. This is the macro that copies the value. We're not importing this at all. Hope that works. We've been doing a warning pass on the compiler. Lots of warnings are fixed, but there's still lots left. So you see fewer warnings and then occasional explosions of warnings. All right, so let's first of all make sure that's still... Type mismatch, instruct parameter 1. What? How did I break something? Okay, I don't know what happened there, honestly. I'm going to have to investigate that later. It's probably a very rare order of compilation bug, which we already actually have a to-do to look into something related to that, actually. Okay, so we can still compile. Let's make sure we still run. Oh, it's loading the file, so slow. All right, great. So now we need to go into compiler, which is, this is how we export this to people, and we need this. So basically, the location directive, which I demoed a while back, is new enough that it wasn't here when we did that. So yeah. And then I need to copy the enum over. Directive through 29. 29 is directive through. Oh, so we don't do that. Directive load, directive run, directive code. Directive location is, oh, we have that. Okay. Okay. Great. Great. So now we can actually, well, let's make sure we still compile. Oh, right. What is happening? I destabilized something in a weird way. All right, well, there's this. Let's fix that. I'm going to change the syntax for enums in a little bit anyway. We're not going to do it tonight. But that is for sure on the list. Really? What? Dude, that is so weird. All right. And I'm just going to keep hitting F7 until that breaks again. Doesn't seem to be breaking. All right. That's a weird bug. To be investigated. Let's finish this. So if it's a location directive, then we say this, and then we say if c.ident, no, if c.dot is caller location, that's only used for procedure arguments, but there you go. Otherwise, oops. Oh wait, if c.ident I'm getting sleepy. So if c.ident, we do one thing that includes appending the name. Otherwise, it's just the following thing. If it's this, it's location of something. Right, so let's go to pp main, searching for there's lots of things called location. There we go, caller location right there, so that worked. Let me go to the original main, go to the procedure main, and I'm going to say loc is location of some symbol like animation catalog. Location is there, loc. Make sure that works. When we started it up, we said location is this source code location at this file, this line number, this character number. So that worked. And then when we go to pp main, there we go, loc is hash location of animation catalog. So that works. Great. Great. All right. That might be enough for me for tonight, you know? Not sure if I want to make this a marathon stream. I think those are more appropriate for starting in the morning or for when I'm more awake. I don't know, what do you think? Well, the problem is, if I do, I'm just a little tired to do anything too deep, but, and I don't know why I'm tired. Probably just because I had a little cold for the past couple days. There was something, I added something to here, right? Or what did I? No, it was in preload. What was the CNUM? Directive through. That is not done, and that one will be easy. So let's do that. This shouldn't have the AST, because that's not our naming convention. See, this one's easy because there's really no data. It's just the thing. So when we see that, in program print, if we see a directive through, we just say, we don't even bother to cast it. Just say, screw it. And let's add a thing there. We'll say x3 if x is equal to case 1, print hi, case 2, print whoa, through case 3, print whatever. And let me get 2. And we'll build, and we'll run. And whoa, whatever. So the through worked, and we go to pp main, hash through. Well, we're not indented for some reason. That's a little weird. But we know we have indentation problems, because like these probably shouldn't be so indented and so forth. So not going to worry about that yet. Let's see if there's any easy to handle stuff up here. Enum importation. Oh, I'm not worrying about that right now. Not worrying about these top two. Why does code block.type have a weird value? I'm going to sort these up a little bit. Okay, so one thing we haven't done, there's this no ABC directive that you could put on any block that says don't array bounds check this block. And we do not only do we not print it, I don't know if the information that a block is marked no ABC gets all the way to the user. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because we need to know. So block, yeah, there's no place here for a flag that says that. So like in our version that's internal to the compiler, I mean, we have a lot more stuff on it, but it's got these block flags right after the block type. And all of these are internal except for one. But I'm going to do this anyway. So block flags is an enum u32 of block no array bounds check is 1. So now we need to export that. Well, we need to put it here too. All right, and then we need to export that. So in Messenger, which is part of the compiler, we need this to have okay, that compiles. These are in the wrong order. Block flags needs to be right after block type. Syntax error. I made a goof. I guess a semicolon is not really here. All right, now do we allow \u whatever for Unicode characters? Those would have to be printed out as well. We do not do that yet. We may, we just don't. And I'm not sure if they would have to be printed out as well, because the thing is, we accept strings as input that just have straight up Unicode characters in them. Like, why bother with \u whatever? Why not just let people put Unicode characters in? That's what I would prefer to do. So there's that. All right. So when we're exporting a block, we say result block flags or equals CB block no array bounds check if and only if source block flags and block no array bounds check. We also have to do that on importing the block. I messed something up. Cannot convert from int to CB block flags. What you talking about, Willis? Oh, what? Are you serious? Dude, C++ is so lame. Alright. Oh God, what? This is not going to be an enum, I guess. That's clear. I guess you shouldn't make your thing enums in C++, even though that's the way that you get the debugger to print the names of things. All right. That's one of those things that I would have remembered, except now programming in C++ is the minority of my programming time, so like, yeah. All right, so now I want to go into main and say no ABC there, and make sure that comes out in pp main. It didn't. Oh, because we didn't actually do it. Print block. Print block. If block dot block flags and block no array bounds check, then we append the string no ABC and then a space. Did I not put what? Oh. Let's put that local anyway. And then, that. That happened again. What's going on with that? All right. What is it complaining about? Oh, that's the command processing. What? That's maybe not a compiler bug. That's, I bet I just have a dumb bug with like an uninitialized variable in my processing code or something. All right, so that works. And, oh, let's look at pp main. That's what we're doing. Hey, look, there's a no ABC there. Let's start using a bunch of them. There we go, look. On the static if, there's a no ABC block. There's one on set process equals DPI aware. Oh! Okay, this is wrong that we're printing this block twice. That's a bug that we have to deal with. No, okay. We're going to classify that. That's a different class of things, but we're going to put... So again, there's a similar philosophical question there about, do I give you these, or do I give you this? This won't have type information for everything because whichever block didn't get accepted by the static if, due to the condition being false for that branch, won't have type information and stuff, which I guess is fine. I don't know. The extra braces we're not worried about. That's just a syntactic thing. The program will come out the same. So we don't care about that. Okay, that might be it for tonight, because just, a lot of these things that are next on the list are maybe, or maybe things to do with a fresh morning mind for making new decisions about how things need to be. Compiler size, 40,674 lines. Because we haven't been adding new features, it hasn't grown very much. We've just sort of been hardening it against bugs and stuff. Any final questions before we sign off for the day and the night? Any final questions? Now remember, this is not counting new lines and spaces, right? So like, first column is blank lines, second line is comment lines. So, if you measure it the other way, where you measure all these, then you have to add these, and you get like about 60,000. Difference between atom table and sim table. What's sim table? Is that one of the files here? I don't see either one right now. Oh, these. So atom table is just an internal thing to the compiler. It doesn't represent, it's not like Lisp atoms or anything that make their way to the language semantics. It's just a way of like, if you have multiple things that are the same identifier, then you coalesce them to the same pointer early on, and then it's easy to compare everywhere else if it's the same identifier, right? You don't have to do a string compare. Not that that matters very much, but whatever, right? This is for writing the symbol table of a .obj file, which is just a totally different concept. That's just how you list the contents of the package chunks in the file and bind them to names. Do I have any plans for how to handle comments in whitespace? Not yet. We want to do that. One way to handle it, though, is the following. I don't know what's going to be feasible. So one way is to pass all that stuff through the Lexer, if you configure the compiler to do that. I'm not sure I totally like that idea, but we could do that. It's just that comments don't necessarily correspond to anything neat, like they could be anywhere. So what do you do, right? The second thing we could do is, you know, when we give you all this stuff, it has file and line information on all the syntax tree nodes. So you could look at those places in the source file and grab out the comments and put them in the right place, you know. And actually white space is easier. That's an easier problem because you just go to the file and line number and write the expression there, and yeah. So I don't know which of those offhand is the more practical approach. I feel like passing the comments through is the more practical approach, but I don't actually know. So there's that. It's just, I want to get this far enough along so that later we'll be in a position to think about that kind of thing. Whereas right now, we can't even, like, until you can print out a functionally correct program that you can then compile and have it work, then this other stuff doesn't really matter because, you know, you got to walk before you can run. You'll also have to remember raw strings to handle blah, blah, blah. We don't do \u. That discussion came up earlier. I don't think \u is a thing. You just put the Unicode in the thing because the files themselves are supposed to be UTF-8. The source files are supposed to be UTF-8. So you just, if you want a Unicode character, you just put that in the file. Will it eventually be able to preserve the syntax of the original file, or will you have to manually reformat every file? No, the whole point of this is to reformat the file. I don't understand that question. You're going to have to maybe re-ask that question. Do we have a small team working now? So we have 3 people working directly on the compiler, and then Ignacio, who's one of the game programmers, has been our first, like, you know, user who's banging against this as not a compiler implementer, at least not at this time. And, you know, he hasn't done too much of that, but he's played around with it slightly. So, yeah, there's that. Oh, right. So if we do handle \u, see, the problem with that is that then the string has to somehow have metadata information about whether a particular Unicode character was put in the string with \u or directly, and that could be true. There could be a string with like 1,000 Unicode characters. There would have to be like a meta table storing that information, and like just screw that. You know, we're not doing that, so we're just not doing \u is my assumption. But we'll see. We'll see if someone can later on has a really good reason why we should do \u. We could consider it. Have we encountered any bugs that turned out to require making actual design decisions about corner cases in the language? Not in the language semantics. You know, in the compiler implementation, the thing that causes the most problems and that's the hardest to deal with is the out of order compilation. You know, that just gets everywhere, and you just have to deal with it all the time. And so, you know, I change design decisions all the time about implementation details of how that happens, but they don't affect any of the language semantics or anything. All right, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for stopping by. And I'm flying to San Francisco tomorrow. So, I mean, if I get up early, I could do a morning stream and continue some of this. We'll see what feels appropriate. See y'all later.